The film which you are about to see is the account of the horrific mauling which befell a teacher in Alaska. Originally from the small city of Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania, which is only 47 minutes north of Pittsburgh, 32-year-old Candice Berner was an avid runner, boxer, and outdoorsman, and had an immense love for teaching special education. So much so that in August of 2009, she made the life-altering decision to move the 3,500 miles from Slippery Rock to a small remote town in Alaska known as Prairieville, which is located right here on the Alaskan Peninsula, as well as working in a town over known as Chignik Lake. Both locations are extremely remote and incredibly hard to get to, with only the options of traveling there being either plane or through a ferry. The surrounding wilderness can also at times be some of the most unforgiving, with nothing but forests, lakes, mountains, and freezing ocean stretching for at least 300 miles in each direction. The area being so remote that the three main towns in the area, Chignik Lake, Chignik Lagoon, and Chignik, don't even have a road connecting the three, combining the 224 population of all three towns, and leaving them isolated. With some of the most deadliest animals in the North American hemisphere, including grizzly bears and gray wolves. Later in August of 2009, when Candice decided to make this insane move, she was so excited for her new experiences that she decided to keep a journal of her day-to-day life. It's so important to be alert and aware of your surroundings because we're not in Pennsylvania anymore and everything is bigger and more fierce in Alaska, she writes in one of her first journal entries. I didn't think I would have a hard time flying, but it's much more intense than I anticipated. The airstrip is nothing more than a piece of dirt, and to me it always looks like we're going to land in the ocean or on top of some houses. Being that she was in love with nature though, she was beyond excited and honestly just ready to get away from the hustle and bustle of living in the lower 48 states. Especially as she loved to go on hikes full of beautiful scenery, and luckily each time she remembered to bring a friend or a weapon of some kind, such as a bear spray or a handgun. At one point while she was even hiking with a friend in Alaska, she even ran past her first grizzly sighting. She wrote in her journal, "Since he appeared to be taking our path, we decided to change course to avoid confrontation. Andrew carries a .44 Magnum, so I felt pretty safe. However, a bear can still be dangerous after being shot, so the hike back to the village was a little nerve-wracking, but exciting." Which now brings us back to our story. On the fateful day of March 8th, 2010, Candice Berner had a pretty average morning and decided to go for a run around the forest that surrounded the village. That day, the weather was pretty cold with clear skies and snow covering the ground. So Candice made sure to dress warm and made sure to do the rest of her safety checks on the equipment that she might need for her run. Mainly just making sure that she had everything that she would need just in case of an unforeseen emergency. Well, at least she thought she did. A little later, as she was beginning to get more into her run, she was most likely enjoying the gorgeous nature all around her, as it was helping to remind her why she moved to this wilderness state in the first place. She then turned onto a trail covered in white stones and snow that was on the outskirts of town, the entire time leaving the trail of footprints behind her as she ran. The trail was quiet and she must have felt a moment of peace as she continued up the hill. Then as she made it to the top, she couldn't help but take her phone out and record the gorgeous wilderness all around her. Though as she did so, the glowing eyes of a cunning predator were hidden and watching quietly, and our friend Candice couldn't have been any the wiser. Well, that was until a large gray wolf slowly walked out of the brush, making itself known to Candice, and before she knew what was even happening, the almost 150-pound wolf was already on top of our 4-foot 11-inch friend, rolling her onto the street as he bit down on her arm. And unfortunately, a few seconds later, multiple members of the pack would join their friend in the mauling, eventually silencing the cries of poor Candice forevermore. A few hours later, around 6:30 p.m., a group of friends would be snowmobiling down the isolated road on their way to dinner, when suddenly, off in the distance, one of the members in the group saw something deep red off to the side of the road, surrounded by white snow. Though as they drove closer, the unmistakable sight of blood was undeniable. And as they drove right up to the scene, they saw multiple wolf tracks surrounding the pool of blood, and right off to the side was a trail of blood and paw prints leading to the body of Candice, and it was obvious that she had just gone through a horrific animal attack. The group then immediately called 911 for help, and as the investigators got to the location, at first they thought Candice had been mauled by a bear, then later scavenged by wolves. Later though, as they carried out the autopsy, the coroner and the investigator, Lieutenant Colonel Audie Holloway, concluded that the cause of death was definitely a wolf attack. The attack then sent the small town into a panic, and a mass search was then conducted in order to find the killer wolves before they struck again. Though due to harsh weather conditions, tracking the pack down was incredibly difficult. Though a week later, wildlife agents were able to locate and kill 2 of the wolves that they believed were responsible for the death of Candice, near the same area that they found her body at, as they tried returning to the scene to finish her body off. The passing of the young teacher left a hole in the community, as she was just getting familiar with all of her students and their loving families, as she once wrote in her journal about a field trip to Humpback Bay. About half the school went, and we got to meet a lot of the parents. The kids loved teaching us all about the wilderness and fishing. It was great for them to see me struggle and make mistakes, and it be okay. One of the traditions is spreading seal grease on the salmon and then sprinkling salt and pepper. It's actually very tasty. And with that being said, may Candice Berner rest in peace. And once again, thank you for watching. Remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons and turn on the notification bell for more content in the future. Goodbye for now.